1.
Welcome to Southern Sense Talk Radio with your host, the radio chick, Annie Ubellis. Join Annie on Tuesdays and Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time with an open chat room full of her regulars. And yes, you can even call in. Call 917-889-3675. That's 917-889-3675 to be a part of the action on the phone line. Not able to listen live? Not a problem. You can always catch Annie, the radio chick, and Southern Sense Talk Radio podcasts in archives at southern-sense.com. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Southern Sense the right way.
TGIF. Thank God it's Friday, and we've got just, 11 more days until Election Day. You're here listening to Southern Sense live on Blog Talk Radio, High Plains Media, SHR Media, Kinetic Hi-Fi, the Fix FM out of Charleston, South Carolina. You'll find us on Stitcher, Spreakers, iTunes, you name it, we're all over the place. Check out the show. It's the name, website is the name of the show. Put a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com. I'm your hostess with the mostest, the radio chick, Annie, along with my so intellectual and handsome co-host and author, Curtis C.S. Bennett. Good afternoon, Curtis.
Hey, I'm just like you, Annie. I'm ready for these 11 days to be over with. And we have a new president. And that's really good.
That is absolutely the truth. What are we going to wake up to on November 9th? Will it be a collective sigh of relief across the nation, or it's going to be, oh, God, what are we in for now? Oh, it is driving us crazy. It's nail-biting, and it gets crazier and crazier and crazier every day. And now, as you mentioned to me off air, I heard just about maybe half an hour ago on Fox News, they announced the FBI is reopening the Hillary Clinton email investigation. So there seems to be a little bit more to it. Let's hope it's not a political ploy and say, listen, they kept on talking about the emails. It was all just a right-wing conspiracy. There's nothing there. Or will we see her in handcuffs being led away in an orange prison jumpsuit? That's the question.
I got my finger crossed.
Cross for which way, Curtis?
Put Hillary behind bars.
Oh man! And the worst part is that I'm involved in my county GOP, and normally our meetings, Curtis, since you were a guest at one of them, is usually the third Thursday of each month. But because of a scheduling conflict with the place that we use, it's going to be the day after the election, and you're going to have a room full of Republicans partying or a room full of Republicans crying on each other's shoulder. Geez, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. But we got a lot to talk about today. You brought us two great guests. Coming up is a gubernatorial candidate. He's thrown his hat in the ring for the governorship of Florida. Nathan Wilson will be joining us at the first part of the show. And at the second part, we've got a Putnam County Commissioner, Larry Harvey, joining us, talking to us about why local politics is so important and why we should be involved on the local, the state, as well as the federal level. It's not all just about, the office of the president. It's important we know who our county officials are, because it affects our everyday life. So we've got an exciting show lined up. And I want to welcome everyone that's listening in the studio, as well as those that are slowly shuffling into the chat room, especially a sweet friend of ours out there, Kel Fritzy of Red Fox and Radio Jihad. Good afternoon, Kel. We see you out there. All right, deep breath. Are we ready, Curtis?
I'm ready. I think I'm back on, too.
Yep, I do see you up there in the chat room. All right, those that listen to the show know that we start off each and every show to a fallen hero. And once again, this is happening all too frequently this year, and it's a shame. It goes out to another fallen law enforcement officer. Today's show is dedicated to police officer Blake Curtis Snyder of the St. Louis County Police Department out of Missouri. His end of watch was just recently, Thursday, October 6th of this year. And as I bring up the dedication music, this is from Riverfront Times. And as I look for the start of this, okay. A 33-year-old St. Louis County police officer was gunned down point blank during an early morning call in South County, said Police Chief John Belmer. Officer Blake Snyder was responding to reports of a disturbance in Green Park when he spotted the suspect heading from a house to his car. Belmar told reporters investigators believe Snyder told the man to show him his hands. The suspect produced a pistol and shot Officer Snyder point blank, Belmar said during a news conference just 5 hours after the attack. It was an immediately fatal wound. A backup officer arrived just as the suspect opened fire, authorities said. That officer shot the suspect multiple times, critically wounding him. The suspect was treated at an area hospital. Snyder was a 4-year veteran of the department. He was married with a 2-year-old son. Belmar says he was working at the Afton Southwest Precinct on Thursday morning when he got the 5 a.m. call to respond to Arno Drive, which is on the southwest edge of Clydesdale Park. Police identified the suspect as 18-year-old Trenton Foster of Afton. He has been charged with murder and armed criminal action. His bond was set at $1 million in cash. Foster was previously arrested by county police in November on charges of criminal possession of controlled substances. He's still awaiting trial on that case. Condolences began to pour in after news of Snyder's death was announced. We are truly saddened to learn of the tragic death of one of our brave St. Louis County police officers, said County Executive Steve Stenger. I offer my condolences to the policeman's family, friends, and fellow officers. St. Louis police officers added black bands to the uniforms, and Chief Sam Dotson said it was with heavy hearts his department would be in mourning. Congressman Ann Wagner, Republican out of St. Louis, said she was heartbroken after learning Snyder had been killed. He was a true hero who selflessly put his own life on the line to protect our families, she said in a statement. Police are accepting donations for Snyder's family through Backstoppers, a nonprofit that assists the families of fallen emergency responders. Snyder was the first St. Louis Police Department officer killed in the line of duty since the death of Sergeant Richard Weinhold in October of 2000. And this is from St. Louis Today. The St. Louis County police officer killed in Green Park was a Metro East native who joined the force in his late 20s. St. Louis County Police Chief John Belmer called Blake Snyder a tremendous police officer who is seen as extremely dedicated by his supervisors. Snyder, 33, of Edwardsville, had been with the department about 4 years and left behind a wife and 2-year-old son. Current and former co-workers said Snyder was known for making large numbers of DWI arrests and was drawn to police work after hearing his in-laws talk about the profession. His father-in-law, who is now deceased, was a Granite City police officer, and his brother-in-law is a member of the St. Louis County's Tactical Operations Unit. Family and friends and fellow officers surrounded Snyder's widow, Elizabeth, when former St. Louis County Police Chief and current Director of Backstoppers Incorporated, Ron Batali, met with her within hours of her husband's death to explain the role of the nonprofit group which will now play in their lives. He doesn't know what's going on, but he'll eventually learn, Batali said of Snyder's son. I assured the family we'd be there to help raise him because that's what we do. Batali said the organization presented Snyder's widow with a $5,000 check to assist with any initial expenses, as is customary, but that all of the family's debt would be eliminated, including any outstanding credit card bills, car payments, or mortgages. Backstoppers will also pay tuition for Snyder's son. His fellow officers thought highly of him, and command staff on down spoke highly of him, Batali said. He was the prototype county police officer that reflects what's all over this nation. Chris Stocker, who retired in April after nearly 3 years as commander of the Afton Police Precinct, said that Snyder had a knack for making drunk driving arrests. He also said Snyder preferred to work the midnight shift, likely because that's when most DWI arrests happen. Stocker said he believed that at one point, Snyder conducted more DWI arrests than the rest of the precinct combined. His reports were pristine, he said. He could never be beat in court, and the defense attorneys knew that. Snyder's last Facebook post on June 7th makes a reference to the death of Memphis police officer Verdell Smith, who was struck and killed by a shooting suspect's car. In the post, Smith is pictured in uniform holding up a sign that reads, "I matter." Many of Snyder's posts include pictures of his son. Among them is a photo of the boy as a newborn, surrounded by his father's duty belt, handcuffs, badge, and police hat. In another, the baby is wearing a police uniform onesie. Today's show is dedicated to Officer Snyder. It is also dedicated to all the brave men and women out there who protect and serve as first responders. Those men and women who voluntarily put on that uniform, go out and place their lives in front and foremost. It is also dedicated to all the brave men and women who serve in our military from the start of this nation to today and into tomorrow. We dedicate it with the song by Dave Bray, Last Call. God bless them all.
Tell them to hold the mother side.
That's Dave Bray. Last call, and you can find it at Dave Bray USA. And you're here listening to Southern Sense here on Blog Talk Radio, High Plains Media, SHR Media, Kinetic Hi-Fi, the Fix FM out of Charleston, South Carolina, Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes, and the heck with it. Just go to our website, the name of the show, put a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com. And I'm your hostess with the mostest, the radio chick Annie, along with my co-host, Curtis C.S. Bennett. Also check out his website, theoriginalradicals.com. Curtis, we've got a great guest lined up, and he's ready to go. And let's bring him aboard. We ready? Are we ready, Curtis?
I'm ready.
Okay. Our guest today, at the start of the show, is Florida gubernatorial candidate Nathan Wilson. Good afternoon, Mr. Wilson.
Good afternoon. How are you all today?
All right.
Sunny where I am in South Carolina, and we're ready for a rock and roll good show. Now, you are a man of many, many talents, a U.S. Air Force veteran. You've handled billion-dollar budgets. You've handled logistics. You've handled illicit trafficking, human sex trafficking, organized crime, security issues. You're basically a chief cook and bottle washer looking at your bio.
Well, I'm glad I didn't have to wash too many bottles, I'll tell you that. And I'm glad I didn't have to cut any potatoes either. But, and I know that CS can actually agree with that, too, back in the day. But
yes.
No, I've got an extensive background. I've done a lot. When I got out of the military, I got out because I did get service-connected disabled, and I just keep strong and just keep on going. And, I see what's happening in the world as well as what I'm seeing here in the States. And I've had enough, and it's more of us guys and gals that have served see the issues and the critical issues that are taking over in our states and how we really need to start stepping back up to the plate. And we need to keep on doing what we've always done, and that's serve the people.
Yeah, because I'm seeing now a whole new batch of men and women now running for political office who didn't have any political desires in the past, but the vast majority of them are former service members, are veterans. What we're seeing is a phenomenon similar to what we saw after World War II in Vietnam, that men and women that served in the military once again stepped forward to serve in elected office.
Well, you're so correct, and the biggest thing is we know how to be able to change things rapidly. We know how to effectively manage, and we know how to actually create the jobs and positions and know who is best for which area. At the same time, we just take our abilities that we learned at a very young age, and we grew through that. And with those abilities is the only way I can say it, but God given me the direction to be able to accomplish, just like all the other men and women that have served, that have went into the political arena. Because I can guarantee none of them, including myself, ever thought that we would ever walk this way. And it was far from my agenda ever to go this way until I've just seen over these years the devastation, the trafficking, the illicit trade, the criminal activity that's out of control in our own country and our states.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the illegal immigration and things that are happening. And whenever people talk about border security or illegal immigration security, everyone concentrates on the southern border. But they fail to understand that every single state is a border state because they either have a seaport or an airport. An airport is also one of our borders. So when we talk immigration, we've got to be talking about an overall picture, not just the southern border. What is your idea on securing our nation?
I agree with Donald Trump. Build the wall on the southern border. I also know that why I'm in Florida, I know how to secure a state, and we will secure the state. And I know how to take care of the ports. And, when you talk about airports, I've worked in leading FBI and ICE and other agencies on a lot of missions and actually have helped rescue 2,058 kids in just a 3-year period. and assisted on taking down 3,179 bad guys and bad gals. Because believe me, this isn't just about men. It's also about women and the users and the buyers, as well as the traffickers and the cartels. But when I was a friend of mine was working out at the FBI in New Jersey, at Newark, and he saw them flying in. He was filming every day. See the gals come in, think they're going to go to a university, think they're going to get a good job. And then the next phase is he sees them getting their passports, handing them over to a person that are getting them all in a van. But there's nothing illegal about that. But what is the problem? That former Secretary Lawrence Eagleberger, that was on my board of directors for the counter-trafficking issues, he and his wife both said, our visa program is broken. And this is back in 2009. And said, we need to get this fixed. And it needs to be done. Because the counterfeit ability of your cartels and your transnational gangs, they all know how to be able to do falsified documentation that looks actually identical to what we actually have, so they're able to process. So there's a lot of things that we need to take care of there, but, his hands were held as an FBI agent. He couldn't do no thing, but he knew exactly what was occurring, and I've seen it firsthand. The other problem is we talk about only 11 million illegals in the United States. Well, that's a bunch of BS because they've been telling you that since 2002. Now, you take that number, and it keeps saying 11 million, and when I actually spoke in front of the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., I had a board with me, panel, and I pulled up a document that the one gentleman that was actually on it, that Hillary had to send because she got pressure from 3 different other Secretary of States to ensure that the ambassador for trafficking of persons would be there. Well, when I pulled up this document, and it showed over our southern border, in 2007, we had 50,000 come across our borders. Now, in a 1-year period, we had a 100% increase. Thanks to my friends at the CIA that declassified that document and was able to give it to me so I could show that night. That trafficking in persons ambassador about went through the roof because he knows the truth, but they don't want to tell the people the truth. As I'm working with the DRO for ICE, the Director of Removal Operations, he says, Nathan, this was in 2005. We don't have 12 to 15 million here. We've got close to about 42 million here illegally. And we know that a greatest portion of these illegals, they're endangered because they're being forced into the trade. They're going out to work in the migrant fields. They think they're going to a university. They've spent all their money just to get their kids to come across that border to hopefully get a good education. Well, they don't realize that they're giving them from those coyotes, they're giving them to the traffickers, to the transnational gangs, and then they're forcing them into prostitution. And then they're secondary to that, they're doing other illegal acts. And matter of fact, I'll give you a little story.
Go ahead.
I was up in Virginia on a case.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a family that had came all the way from Guatemala through Mexico. Took 30 days. They got to the border. They hand them over. They get them all the way up to Virginia. Well, who's running the operations in Virginia in this mobile home area is a group called MS-13. They are a very bad transnational gang. They're all over the United States. And they got to the place, and the guy's there. He's the controller. And he is going to be able to get them a place to stay and get them to provide a job. He said, I just paid $25,000 for all 4 of you. Now you have to work off your debt. So your little boy is going to work over in this trailer house over here. He's going to be this guy's basically staying with him and doing whatever he needs done. Well, the guy's a pedophile. Okay? The kid's 8 years old. Your little daughter is 14. But the parents don't know this. They don't know. They're just, yes, I need a job. Yes, I need a place to live. So now you got to pay for it. So the wife, she goes out to help clean houses. Well, he's right hand, the guy that's the controller. She's going to be with me right now. Now, your husband's going to go out in the fields. He's going to be working. He might do some construction work over here, or he might be out in the fields just picking fruit. That's how it begins. So we can't just say, we got all these illegals coming across the border, which we do. But the cartels and all these people know that, there's possibility of freedom in the United States. And they don't understand, one, how to get here legally because they're not educated. So the countries are willing to be able to send all the criminals as well, just like they did in Cuba back in the day.
It's absolutely amazing how much our government right now is not paying attention to these things. And Hillary Clinton has come up with this plan, and which Obama said he was also going to implement, where they would have sponsorship. So people can immigrate here based upon a sponsor. But it's nothing like the program that they had in the 50s and 60s. You can say, all right, bring your family members over. You're going to be sponsoring these individuals to come over. And that way, we can then get them into welfare, Medicaid, whatever. That's not what we had originally. Originally, the sponsorship is that in order for you to come over, you already had to have a place to live. You already had to have a job lined up. You had to say that you would not be on any government handout for 5 years. You are working to become a U.S. citizen. And if anything goes wrong, the individuals that sponsored you will be responsible for you and for any acts you may have done to break the law. That's not what they're talking about. They're saying, oh, well, if you've got family members, they can come on over and they can live with you and they can do whatever and we'll take care of them. They have no idea whatsoever.
And you know what? That law is still on the books today. That's been 40 years, 50 in 1950s. Still on the law. They've manipulated it, coerced it the way they want to. And because she was in the position where she is and where the president is, then what do you think Border Patrol is so upset? Same with ICE. Because they've actually went around our laws that are on the books to be able to help with the immigration. So to be able to get those sponsorships, you have to have a certain amount of dollars. If you're going to adopt a child from another country, it's going to cost you a lot of money. That's the same protocol. But now they've got it so they can have all these entitlements. And they're not entitled to one dime.
No. We're the ones that worked, and yet our money's been taken and given to people that have never worked and will never work and have no intention of ever working. And it is such a criminal act that this government has been doing, and no one is being held responsible. No one is calling them out on it. Why are our illegal immigrants getting more benefits and treated better than our veterans returning home? Veterans that are now homeless, veterans that are hurting and can't get the medical care at the VA because the VA is broken. But if you're an illegal immigrant, we're going to bend over backwards. We'll send you to a sanctuary city. You're going to get your ID, and we're going to fast pace you to citizenship, like the 800 that they accidentally gave citizenship to that should never have gotten it because they're criminals. It's mind-boggling when I think about what this administration has done.
Well, let's take another step further because we're talking about ports. We're talking about my state in Florida, but we're talking also about the other ones. Washington State's got one of the greatest areas of influx coming through. I spoke years ago at the Attorney General's request up there from Washington State on these issues. They're pouring in up there as well, but they're trying to knock it down, but they're not really doing a great job. But when we've got something even greater that we have to really be concerned with. All this time, these illegals are coming through. It's just like this migration that's taking place, which is not migration, but it's a caliphate, that's going through from Syria and the Middle East over through Europe and translating through Africa. It's the same scenario they did at 600 AD. Well, it's happening right here because they've been coming across our borders. We have stopped people even back in 2003 that were actually Iraqis trying to enter into the United States that were actually military colonels and generals trying to come in. They were trying to evade the process. So we know that we already have terrorists coming through. We know that through North Dakota that they caught terrorists walking through trying to come in from Canada. The feds were able to intercept that. We also know in Florida we have multiple problems. We know that with all this, that what he wants to do with refugees, and she wants to increase it 550% on refugees coming in here from those regions. And by the way, let's make it clear about a 5-year-old child in Syria in the Middle East. They have already been trained since they were 5 to kill the white Satan. And these are facts. This isn't fiction, folks. I hope everybody is listening to this, because they've been training with AK-47s. They've been doing it all the time. The Iranians are completely the ones that back them. That's the facts right there. We also know that the chemical weapons, actually from Iraq, did move into Syria. That's why they have the chemical weapons as well. So when you look at all these issues that we have, do we want that really coming here? Or should we do exactly what Donald Trump's saying, stop them now so we can vet them, because they cannot be vetted. You have to remember what also happened in Greece. They stole all the documentation to be able to create Greek passports. They have the information. They have the ways to be able to make actual documents. They have the document paper. They have everything. So how can we be able to process someone from Greece if they just have a passport and we got an address here? But you can't go any further on the vetting. It's the same thing with Turkey. It's the same thing with anywhere in the Middle East. But we can't just look there. We got to look at Indonesia. Where's the largest area for Muslims? We got to look at what's happening global. But we also then have to go right back to our ports again, because what's coming into our ports? How are we going to be able to secure that? I've got a plan. I know it'll work. But we have much more to deal with. Yes. Hey, Ben.
Hey, you mentioned the FBI a few times earlier when we started the program. We know there's a lot of corruption up in Washington, D.C. Do you believe the FBI has been compromised? And if so, what can we do to prevent agencies like that from being compromised in the future?
Well, I appreciate that question. And, I do know a lot of the agencies. I know a lot of the guys and gals up in D.C. as well, and in through the states. But, you always have at least one bad apple in every bunch, right? That's what we got. We got a bad apple. And we got someone that played politics that knew, without a doubt, that his position was to be able to maintain the sovereignty of the FBI, not to be a political rim for a Republican, Independent, or Democratic Party, but to be able to enforce and secure the nation and protect the nation by law. The laws are on the books. I know that a lot of agents out there, and not one of them is happy with what went down. I've been to Quantico. I've been out there too as well. I've been very blessed in my days to be able to learn so much. But I'm telling you, our agents in the field, they're solid. They want to do what they can do to be able to knock down the criminal activity, to cease and desist the operations of all this corruption that's going on. But when their hands start getting tied by a Department of Justice, that's where you really have to look at the whole enchilada, because the Department of Justice is the ones that calls the shots. And who does that for them over their head? Well, who's appointed to be an Attorney General? The President of the United States appoints. Senate and all the others confirm. So this is what we're dealing with. We've got a great FBI. We are the best in the world for investigations. They are, bar none. There's no other agency that can be done what they have done for all these years that they've been affected. But we've got someone that entered in a political arena and started playing a political arena because he is an appointee. Even though he's been in other administrations, we now know more things are coming out and being revealed. But remember one thing, the truth will always be revealed. Hope that answers your question.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I've said it before, because people kept on saying when Comey was being appointed and the Senate was considering him, everyone's going, oh, he'll be non-political, he's a good guy, blah, blah, blah. You heard all these great things being said about them on the Republican side, but no one looked into his actual past, where he was the prosecutor and investigator for Whitewater. and he didn't do anything with the Clintons. He was the prosecutor and investigator for the Mark Rich pardon, and he didn't do anything. So why would anyone, knowing that history, say that he'll do something with the Clinton email scandal? He's showing his true colors. He's been a Clinton person all along.
It gets right back to we do not have the people to take the time to do the diligence on what needs to be done. And I think that that's what we're going to be able to see with it. And I'm praying like crazy that we get Donald Trump into the office, because we surely don't need any more corruption going on in our country, and we can actually start prosecuting these people. And getting to find out the investigation to be able to do that. And, we leaders like myself, I'm going to be a leader. I know I'm going to win Florida. I am going to win it, period and statement, because I'm not a politician, and we're not going to be playing games. But we've got to start doing our due diligence and understanding who we are putting in that office and look at their backgrounds. And I will tell you, my attorney was surprised when he says, Nathan, you're the first politician. I said, first of all, I'm not a politician. I'm a statesman because I care about the people, and I've served. He goes, well, excuse me. He says, I did the Schedule 1 background check on you. I said, I'm glad you did. I knew you were going to do it. He goes, well, I got to tell you something. I said, okay. He goes, just squeaky clean. You don't even have a parking ticket. You don't have a speeding ticket. I said, because what I have been doing all my life is serving. And I was security forces in the Air Force with law enforcement. Then I was working in the medical field. I'm running a rescue squad. I'm doing other deals as well on the side, working on real estate. And I said I worked hematology oncology for 7 years. And then what happened? I started moving into another field, and that was countering human trafficking, and I did that for 12 years. I said, do you not think my enemies would love to have known any kind of dirt or anything on my background? And he said, you're right. I said, that's why I win. Because I have standard integrity, and when I say my word, I stand by my word.
Yeah, now...
That's what we have been having.
Go ahead, Annie.
No, I was going to say that I see that actually 4 people have filed for the candidacy for governor. 3 of them are Republican. And matter of fact, this one person, I don't even know how to pronounce this name, Usha, has filed for not only governorship, but state representative. Can they file for 2 different candidacies?
You can file as many times as you want in Florida. You can. However, it would kind of diminish what you're actually trying to accomplish, wouldn't you think?
I think so. All right, go ahead, Curtis.
What are your views, Nathan, on what are your views on Article 5 State of Convention if you become governor?
Come back on it again. I didn't hear you said.
What are your thoughts on the Article 5 Convention of States?
Oh, baby. I loved Article 5. First of all, and I don't have to worry about this when Donald becomes president, but if Hillary came in, I'd tell her, get out of my state. You have no authority, and we are going to remove Obamacare. Common Core is gone, and you will not put refugees here. And I will contact, at that point in time, I will be on the phone with every governor of the state, and we will talk about one thing. That is, we will take and push forward, and we will go together and work together to tell the federal government, you're not going to have any in our state. And when we become a 2/3 majority vote, and then the Senate and the House will have to say, okay, the states have now pushed forward theirs, now we'll take them to court, and we'll win, and they'll keep them out.
Amen to that.
I'll give you the first, just part of it.
Exercise the 10th
Amendment.
Amendment.
That's what we got to do.
Yes, exercise the 10th Amendment.
Roger that.
And you got to pardon me. I've got a 4-month-old kitten climbing on my back. Oh, jeez. Oh, all right. Go ahead, Curtis.
But thanks for bringing that question up. That's a great question, C.S.
You're welcome.
Well,
and I was also thinking, what are your thoughts on Common Core?
Gone. Common Core, I think, is one of the worst educational platforms we've ever had. And if we look at where it actually originated from and who's making the money off of it, no wonder Jeb Bush pushed it through Florida and got it through. Because somebody in that family made a lot of money off of that. But it's actually, it lines up right with that Qatar teaches in mathematics out in the Middle East. Why are we doing that? Why are we diminishing and taking our studies and our complete, the correct way of history in the United States is, and even the state of Florida's history, I got real problems with that. We need to be able to get our kids back in through public education in a more of a safe, productive environment. And the best way that I can see to ensure that on a global economy-wise is, first of all, we got to look at the sexual predators that are in the schools system already. We got to look at the drug dealers and the traffickers that are actually in the schools that are teachers and coaches. We got to start doing background checks on those, talking about dual diligence. I think it's very important that we have to be able to get a dual diligence, and they should be Schedule 1 and a mental eval on every teacher. You're not going to come in and have a certificate anymore, in my opinion, in this state. I'm going to push for, you need to have a master's degree to teach our kids from K to 12 to be able to get them set up to the right method, to be able to get them ready to go internationally on our method. And on top of that, at the same time, it's inadequate for preparing any student for college.
You know, here in the state
I can keep going on if you want.
Here in the state of South Carolina, where I live, Governor Haley has signed the bill where certain parts of Common Core have been removed. I believe it was math and science have been removed, but all the other parts are still in place, which is what we're fighting with at this point, trying to get all of it knocked out. But the one thing that our state legislator did do, it passed it on the high school level and now on the secondary education level, the college level, that each and every student must learn the founding of this United States, the founding fathers, the founding principles and documents. Would you pass something like that in Florida?
Absolutely. I would definitely be a champion on that. And not only that, I'm going to say, why are we letting our kids learn secondary languages when in high school, well, actually in their last year of junior high and then going into high school, why aren't we teaching them language at the very beginning called preschool at the age of 5 when that's the language learning time for all kids? So why don't we have this? We got kids with secondary languages already. Problem is they don't know the grammar. They don't know how to write it. Some of them don't even know how to read it, but they speak it at home. So why don't we have that be a part of the curriculum starting at preschool? They're learning English. That's primary, by the way, because that is the language of the United States. And then if they're French, they've got French in their background, whatever nationality, whatever language. Let them get credit for it. So once we've walked them through the program from preschool to out of high school, guess what? Now we're going to be able to put them on an international map right away when they go to college, or if they decide they want to be an entrepreneur, they're going to be able to move it that direction. And we got to bring VOTEC back into it as well as social studies with the history of our country. Kind of lay it out.
All right, we got a question up in the chat room from Vito Esposito, who actually has an excellent radio show also here. He asks that you said that on your webpage that you're an expert in human trafficking. How bad is the problem in Florida, specifically Central Florida?
Well, yes, I am. I am an expert in countering human trafficking and illicit trafficking. It is out of control in Florida. We are number 3. They've talked about it with these politicals in this state since 2003 that they're going to zero tolerance. Well, I got your zero tolerance because you're still number 3 in the entire country. Most of my cases that I did on my ops were out of Florida. From Key West, Miami, you've got the biggest hub, which is between Orlando, Clearwater, and Tampa. You know, that's a big issue. But here's what we need to do, what they're not doing. They put together the Joint Task Force incorrectly. They put it in a bunch of ministries' hands. They also built safe harbor locations for victims. So let's take the first phase in play. You cannot deal with corruption and be able to gather intel to be able to take these people down if you have ministries just thinking, oh, I feel good, I feel great, which is great. I mean, that's not a problem. However, when you don't want to work with law enforcement to give them information or you want to pull away from them and not communicate, that's a major problem. Well, we have that problem in this state. We get people with egos that all of a sudden they want to get a little piece and they want to look like they're feeling good about themselves so people can look at them and think they're very good. But we've got a big problem. Why are we still number 3? Because we have not trained law enforcement, as I tried to get curriculum through back in 2014 and also back in 2011. which actually when I train law enforcement myself, and by the way, you will see the first governor in all the states actually on the ground training the trainers of law enforcement when I become the governor of this state, and they will know how to be able to apprehend. They will be able to take it down, and they will change the languages that we did. I also wrote the legislation that put the asset seizure forfeiture bill in play for on trafficking. But we have to be able to gather that information from these victims right away. It's very, very important to gather as much as you can. And then you're able to track it back. And don't just go after low-lying fruit because you see a prostitution. Oh, we got traffic girls. We got 4 of them out of the trade. That's great. However, I like it when I was nailing and getting 800 at one time, even though the op took 3 to 4 months, sometimes up to 7 months. And when it went 7 months, it took me internationally, right out of Key West. So we have a big issue. It's critical. It's critical up in New York. It's critical in a lot of different states, Washington State, Texas. In every state, it's in your backyard. I don't care what states you are in the United States. You have some type of human trafficking happening right there. So we have to look at that part. How are we going to be able to get people to understand it? Well, we got to get some legislation in place. I wrote it for New York. I've written it for North Carolina. I've written it in 8 states, including Virginia. Washington State helped them also get the bills in place, so we have now laws. But we have to train our law enforcement and our DAs on how to prosecute and how to remove these people from society.
Yeah, well, when I was in New York City,
I hope that answers this question.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I have a caller who's going to ask a question, and I'll bring him on in just a second. But when I was a New York City police officer, our hands were tied when we arrested someone, and we knew for a fact that person was an illegal. We were not allowed to notify INS. Now, that's because New York is a sanctuary city. What would you be doing with your sanctuary cities in Florida?
Gone. Goodbye. Done. Out of here. No more.
All right. Well, let me bring this caller in. He's a friend of the show, and actually, he is out there knocking on doors because he's running for the school board of Grand Rapids, Michigan. So, Cool Mike, you're here with a future governor of Florida, Nathan Wilson.
Hi, Nathan. I've really enjoyed listening to you. I'm sorry I'm not familiar with your campaign. Are you with a political party? And is my first question. Secondly, also thank you for putting yourself out there. It's always you become a target whenever you run for any office where they throw spears at you. So thank you. And my next question is, as governor, what's your stand going to be on Common Core educational standards?
Well, I'll repeat that again, and it is big on my heart about kids and education. And Common Core, like I said, it's out. I mean, I'll use our 10th Amendment right, Article 5, and tell the government if we have to get out. Part of it is, what we perceive already was getting the kids ready for college. They're not. The mathematics is one of the issues, but the STEM courses, these are early appearance for Common Core do not work. You can have all these teachers working past the hours that they have to work. You got students that can't even understand. You got parents that can't even understand the mathematics part. So it needs to be out of there. We also need to bring social studies back into existence, the real history of the United States, but also global history. And we can't just leave that out. We've got to bring that all together and really put it into a platform that's not been manipulated by a lot of other folks that have been liberal professors that now decided they want to try to rewrite history and write the history of the United States and rewrite it that way. I also was talking about, I didn't mention this, but why in the world we can actually do this? I know we can do it. We can take our public schools, K through 12, and we can match them with charter schools. Why in the world we are not actually going to cause competitiveness between the public and the charter school? Charter schools are making a lot of money off of it. That's great. But you know what? We can build our schools right back up to it and build our infrastructure, and we can actually have sound programs with incredible educators to come in and educate our children. So we've got to get these kids also to understand the Constitution of the United States and memorize it. I remember back in the day when I was in school, in elementary, we did a Pledge of Allegiance every day. Absolutely. I don't care if you think you're not here illegally and you don't want to say it. You got a right. You get a First Amendment right. However, you don't have a First Amendment right because you're legally here. So that's a problem. If you're going to be in my classrooms in our state, you're going to be saying it. The other part, I know I get a lot of flack for that, but I really don't care. We will battle. I don't mind battling. I can go to fights. We got a war to take on. That's what we're dealing with these days all around the United States because of Common Core. We've got kids that aren't being able to learn what is necessary. Parents can't understand how to help their kids with the homework. So with that, we also need to really force in the other part what I was talking about earlier, is we need to get our kids that have secondary languages, and anyway, just doing any foreign language, not waiting until they get in high school to start taking foreign language courses, but teaching them at a preschool area where that is their learning days. 5 years of age is the learning of language, and that's mathematics too, by the way. So language is mathematical. So when we take all this and we implement this in, we are now going to have productive kids. We're going to have kids that are going to be able to champion themselves, and by having the right teachers, the right folks out there, getting the parents more involved and more engaged. Now that I can be so exhausted trying to figure out how to do the mathematics and the history because it's all screwed up, they're going to have the right programs in front of them. Now, which party am I at? Well, I'm an outsider. I'm on the Republican Party side. And I've always been a Republican, always voted Republican. But that's not why I go by choice of who I feel is the best person. It always has been that way. So that's kind of where I stand on that. And, just going to work, brother.
Wow. Where did we find this candidate? You should have ran for president.
I think the state will be good. I think I'll start there. I'm not really a political. I'm just, like I said, I'm an outsider. I'm sick and tired of seeing what I've been seeing. Enough's enough. Just like my brother here, CS, we both have served. We know what it takes. We know what we went through, and we don't want to see our kids go through it, but we also know that we have to have the security of our state because our state is a major port for the enemy to come through, just like all the eastern seaboard. Same thing with Charleston and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Maine. We've got a big responsibility over here. But we also have to look what's happening through California, Texas, looking at our borders. But we have to come together, and as governor, I can be able to work with the Governors Association so that we all can start saying, get out of our state with Article 5 and use our 10th Amendment rights.
That's going to be a huge amen on that one, because there is a movement. There's an organization called IamAmerican.org, and right now they've got, I think it's 27 states so far have passed legislation to balance the budget. So they're working on balance the budget. They're going to work on that, on term limits, and go on down the line and do a constitutional convention on narrow issues. It can't be a runaway con. If anyone does violate the rules, they're ejected. So his is very interesting. So we're going to see what happens on that. Have a possibility of a constitutional amendment.
And that's great. I'm glad you brought that about term limits and the fraud, waste, and abuse we have in here in the state. I've seen so much of it. That's why I know where to go get the money to build our schools and our infrastructure. And building the programs. We've got plenty of it. We've got to go cut the head off the serpent in our own states. We can't just say, okay, the federal government. The states need to take their rights, and they need to start in their own backyard before they start screaming at Washington, D.C. And when you clean up your own, then you can go after the other. And then that gives you more power and strength with your Senate and your House.
Now, there's a conversation going on in the chat room. It looks like because Curtis, you and Nathan are there in Florida. Is it true that there is state money being given to these mosques that are being built?
This is the first I've heard of it.
I have not heard of any mosque being paid at all either, at all. And I've been very much on that. However, I will bring this up. We have already determined through a friend of mine that was a former OSI with the Air Force and a Christian guy from Kurdistan actually infiltrated 12 mosques in Fort Walton Beach and also one in Pensacola that are actually teaching radical Islam. And they're a 501c3. They're just like any other religious organization or church. But since then, we have not only seen what the one in Orlando is the same one that the guys from 9/11 were trained and piloted out of that school there. We in that mosque. They went that same one that just dealt with our issue here in Orlando. But we also found 5 other mosques that are teaching radical Islam. Why isn't our government of Florida doing anything? Well, I will tell you what I will be doing. I will find out if they're teaching radicalized ideas to radicalized people. I will have the Attorney General of this state and the CFO remove their 501c3 status from the state. Then if they are found to be continuing this activity under investigation, then we will do further. We will seize that property, and now we're going to give homes to those veterans that don't have a place to live.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I know you're going to be going in a few minutes, but you mentioned also about small business. Now, 80% of people that work for a small business. And with Obamacare being instituted, a lot of these people cannot afford to hire new workers. What would you be doing to help build up small businesses?
Well, that is a really, and by the way, I've been a small business owner for many years. And I know this fact, how hard and difficult it is for them, even with some of the relaxed tax views that we have here in Florida for businesses. It still takes too long for them to get ramped up. And yeah, first of all, let's talk about the Obamacare. We're talking 10th Amendment, Article 5 again. Get out of my state. You're not having any authority over my people. Period. We'll fight it. They should not be punished because they don't have insurance. They should not be penalized in any form or fashion or threatened, oh, we'll put you in jail. That didn't happen on my watch. The other part is I have the ability to bring corporations in and companies. And we have to look at surge support and how do large corporations actually work the best. IBM proved that. Surge support. And that's what we have to do. That's what small businesses are able to get into places. They're able to work there. And I'm not talking about bringing companies in, and I got foreign people coming from that other country with that company into the state, and they get the jobs. Or they move all their people down here to get the jobs. No, we're going to create the jobs for Floridians. They're going to be for our people. We're not going to be, because we got plenty of scientists. We got great engineers, space engineers. We're going to build the space back up. I've got things planned up there. Why are we paying billions of dollars to Russia and China to send rockets and satellites up when we can do it right here? We got the best location in the best weather conditions for it. That's why it was picked at Cape Canaveral by JFK back in the day. The other part is when these jobs need to get it. You've got small business. You've got to be able to lift them up, and you got to help them. How do you do that? You try to start looking and cutting the criminal activity that's happening in those areas, because companies don't come in because they do a risk management study. Because I used to do these for companies. I'm going to see what the risk is. Are they going to have enough qualified individuals in that town, in that city where we could put it? What's the property cost going to be? What are we going to get? Well, here's no more what you're going to get anymore. You want to come here? We're not paying you to come here. What we will do is give you some incentives. However, you're going to have this many people working, and you're going to hire this many small businesses to be able to effectively get your business to where you need it to be and how you can be able to move things further. So when we start taking things in a full spectrum and we start creating the jobs by economic development, that means we got to help our law enforcement. We got to give them what they need. We've got to start paying them what they need, just like we need to increase the teachers' pay, because we're going to need more highly certified, qualified instructors. We also need to look at our fire departments. If you're going to come here and develop, you want to build a big place, you know what I'm going to ask you to do? I'm going to ask you to build a fire department with that. Matter of fact, I want you to help build a school. Matter of fact, all you NFL and NBA teams, I think you need to start giving back. But actually, they want to. They just never been asked. There's a lot of things that we can do, which is going to create a lot more work and a lot more jobs.
Exactly. I saw a T-shirt recently someone had. It's asking, why does an NBA player get paid more money than the soldier in the field? What are they doing that makes them deserve that much money, and yet we ignore the soldier in the field? And this is what we have to do. We have to build the strength of our nation back. one politician at a time.
Absolutely, and I know that Bennett will actually agree with us too. Florida, we need to build up our Florida in that regard. We need to get them the proper equipment. We need to make sure they're protected, and we need, when they go overseas, because they actually are being sent overseas, by the way, these are our guardsmen, and women and men are going. But we got to take care of the families. I got a program where we're going to take care of the vets. I'm a disabled vet. I definitely got a big heart for that. And we're going to take care of the active duty. This is another way we're going to be able to get more businesses going, because when you're in Florida and you're retiring from the military or getting out, you are a very fully qualified individual. You've got more qualifications than somebody that's been sitting in a classroom all this time, because you've already did your classroom and you've done your practical and your clinical. So why don't we go ahead and waive your fees and get you right out there and get you started in a job and get you going in the medical community, in EMS, fire. Let's help you with that. But if you're reservist, we can't find people they can't find jobs. Well, I've got a way to be able to create jobs for them. And that's helping with EMS. That's helping with law enforcement. Those are what we need to do. We need to do things of that nature so we can actually protect our state, help protect the country.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I like in my area, because I live in the area of the Tri-Command, I've got Paris Island Recruit Depot a couple of miles in one direction. I got the Marine Corps Air Station a couple of miles in the other direction. And in the middle, I've got the Navy Hospital. So we're a heavy, heavy military community and a lot of military retirees. And fortunately here, we have several times a year job fairs in various parts of the county for veterans. And this is what we have to do, is get private businesses to start hiring these men and women, because they bring skills to the floor there that are fantastic. But what we're having a problem with is for the business community to understand what these skills are and how they can utilize them in their business. There's a disconnect. And teach the veteran that, hey, you can translate what you learned in the military to private industry. Marry the two. This is where I see the biggest weakness.
Absolutely. And, I'd add to that, too, is what the employers do not understand. And if there's anybody that owns businesses out there on this call right now, listen to this. Do you realize that when you hire a veteran, you actually give them a salary, you get a percentage of that salary back at the end of the year by your taxes? So think about why you really need to hire a veteran. Two things. They're super highly qualified. They can adjust and adapt to any scenario. And you also can have that tax break. Now, that makes a lot of common sense to me, even as a businessman, because I've hired a lot of people in over the years that have been former military. That's all I'll hire, because I want the best of the best so that we can be productive and we can win and we can do the best for other people. That's what we got to do. I hope that helps you guys to understand what you can do out there as business people.
As a former small business owner, I can attest to having someone that's in the military as an employee. They're on time. They're prompt in whatever they do. They look to work instead of saying, I'm going to just sit here and make it look like I'm doing something. I've had a lot of those too. But having a military person, they bring so many good, unique skills and qualities to the table that it's a waste of manpower not utilizing them, especially if we can get them into the classrooms too, as teachers, as mentors, as coaches. That's an area that affecting the young kids growing up, making them want to emulate the military individual.
Absolutely. And, we've got to start getting these kids to understand that we've got to protect our Constitution. We've got to protect the rights of everyone here. But the only way that it's been ever done is by those that have served and those that went before us.
That's a big amen on that one. Now, I want to take you in a little bit of a different direction, because you were talking about clean energy on your website, and I didn't see anything there supporting offshore drilling. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I have no problem with that. I think that it's because we've only had a few incidents. It's not that much. You look globally at offshore drilling. By the way, in Florida, people don't realize we actually have had a pipeline for 35 years going from Tampa to Louisiana. He's never had a problem. You've got these other issues, but I think that we should always have. We've got to have clean energy. The cleanest energy out there and the safest, by the way, is nuclear. We do know that. We know it's a fact. We also know that wind energy is good, but wind energy can't be used here because of the hurricanes and the high winds. It will destroy it. Just rip them up. I already did my studies on this. I actually worked in Latvia on a project for the Latvians and learned a lot. I learned a lot on that one. I also, solar, I've got a real problem with solar because solar panels actually become toxic after 20 years. So where are you going to put them when they're no good anymore? You're just going to dump them somewhere, right? So then it's going to drop down into the water system. Now we're talking eco issues. We don't need that. But I know that 20% of it can be done if you use on these high-rise buildings. There's ways that can absorb the, you got all this heat that comes off the cities, off the high-rises with all the glass that's on them these days. Grab a hold of that. Use that as an energy source. And you make it that direction. I can see that. And be able to use it to cut down the cost through working with, and I don't agree with just Florida Power Electric. I believe Duke Energy needs, there was a bill for Duke Energy and they cut it down. I think it was the biggest mistake the state did. You got to have competitiveness so we can have lower rates.
Well,
did that answer your question?
Yes, it did, because we have a battle here in South Carolina where I am supporting the offshore drilling that was proposed from Florida all the way up to North Carolina. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand what the prerequisites for this are. They're going to be 5 miles out. No, more than that. I think it's like 50 miles out. You're not going to be able to see them, so it's not going to be an eyesore to anyone that has property along the coastline. They're going to be sitting on the shelf, so they're not like the deep well project that went kaflooey in Louisiana. It's going to be, if there's any problems, it's going to be easy to repair, easy to inspect, to prevent repair. And in the end, these drilling stations actually serve as an ecosystem. You'll end up with an abundance of marine life around there, which is great for ecotourism. It's great for the fishing industry.
It helps the coral come back as well. If you're not too far out off sea, it helps with the coral. That's true because of the concrete.
Yeah, and alone in the Gulf of Mexico, once they started doing the drilling with the rigs, the red snapper was almost extinct. Now it is the biggest source of red snapper that's in our grocery stores. There's so many benefits to it, more than there are, any problems. So,
well, we have to go back and what we need to do is educate people. And see, that's what we keep lacking on doing, in educating. We can't just throw it in their face. We got to educate them, letting them know, here's the pros, here's the cons, and the truth. We're not just doing a little study, and by the way, I have no companies that are in my back pocket, okay? The bottom line is, this is what needs to be done. And one of my advisors, a dear friend of mine, he was the Secretary of Navy, Deputy Secretary of Navy, on energy and facilities. And that's how we came up with this plan. I started talking to him about it. And he said, yeah, people don't realize it because they've been fed one side. And they only go on that one side. They think it's all going to be against the ecosystem and it's going to damage everything. No, we have ways. Alaska Pipeline's been coming here for how long? We don't have leaks. We don't have problems.
No, and the Alaska...
They had it because they were putting it into a ship.
Well, what people don't realize also with the Alaska Pipeline, they thought it would inhibit the wildlife, but instead the wildlife loved the pipeline because it's a heat source too. So, elks and deers and bears are prospering around the pipeline. Also, people complaining about the sonic boom, the sonic cannon they used to test for oil and gas. But they've been using this along the coast of Africa, in the Gulf Coast also. And there are no mass strandings of fish. There's no mass strandings of whales or other sea creatures. They're using data from the 1970s instead of looking at what is being currently used today. There's so many lies going out there.
There it goes.
And we've got another question from Vito in the chat room. He wants to know what your stance is on coal-fired plants.
Oh, my gosh. Coal? Coal is awesome. We can actually do coal, and I do agree with coal. Because we have more in this country of coal that can actually do the entire world and fuel it for thousands and thousands of years. But we have everything in place now, which is now burned. It's burned clean. It's clean burning. It's not like it was back in the 60s, and again, like you said, the 70s. That whole apparatus has changed. So I'm all for coal energy. I'm definitely for that because we have what's necessary to protect the economy, but also protect the ecosystem, and also to be able to develop more ways of energy that we need through coal energy. Now, I'm all about water energy. Why are we using hydro? I mean, Europe's been doing it for a long time. We got the Gulf Stream. We can do a lot there. That's one of my other thoughts. And I want to put it on paper and see how we can do that.
Well,
why not use hydro?
We're getting some comments in the chat room. They love you, Mr. Wilson. They want you definitely to come back on the show. And you know you have an open invitation to come back anytime. People can reach your website, which is your name, Nathan D. Wilson, FL for Florida.com. There's a link up on the show page, and most people that listen to the show listen to the podcast later on. It'll get hit in the thousands, so all they do is just click on the link to find out about your candidacy. And I went through your website, and I love it, because you also have a school exercise program that you're looking at, and the benefits of that.
Absolutely. You know, we've taken that out of the schools, and it's ridiculous. That's why we have more sexual issues. That's why we're, with the kids, more teen pregnancies proven. If you don't have the exercise and you don't have the nourishment amount, the nutrition for these kids to be able to exercise and everything else. But the only thing is, why do we have so much bullying? You got kids that are exploding, can't get out of their chairs. They're sitting in the classroom for 5 hours. Think about it. You don't think there's going to be bullying? Get that energy out of the kids. Get them out there. Let them run track. Get them out there pushing through. And, if you can't afford it in your county or your state, go ask the NFL. Go ask the NBA. That's what I'm going to do. I need your support. You know what? Why don't you help us get our kids out? Once you come and help teach them, get your trainers off season, come over here and work with the kids too. And why am I saying that? Because I want you to help play with the uniforms, but I want you to raise these up. You might not have to go to another state, to another high school, because we can build them right here in Florida. We can build your team. You can already prep your own players up. Do you see where I'm going? Why not? You got gymnastics. You got swimming. We got some of the best locations in swimming, the best swimming leagues here in Florida, year-round. So why don't we start doing what's necessary? Getting those kids the right nutrition. When it comes to a meal, no kid goes hungry. None. No bag lunches because they can't be able to pay for it. No, they're getting a hot meal just like everybody else. Nothing's going to be changed. We're going to work it so these kids get the right nutrition. And also if their parents are having difficulty. Do you know right now in one county, in Brevard County, matter of fact, over 1,200 kids are homeless. They're going in the woods with their families at night. They're living in the streets in cars, and they're going to school. But they're too afraid to take something to eat when they're given a free meal. Well, that's another problem we have in the entire United States, not just Florida.
Well, I'm hearing reports after report after report that the kids are not eating the meals at the schools because everyone has gone with this healthy food program, and the kids don't like the food that they're being given. It isn't pleasant for them to eat. So they'd rather skip the meal and hit the candy store on the way home. This is a huge problem. Ever since they started messing around with the school meals and mandating this healthy thing, kids are no longer eating the school meals.
So true. And what happens is, but if we don't have them having the effective nutritional balance system they need, the one that the administration put out is absolutely just asinine. But when we had a pyramid when we were growing up, that was an effective way of feeding and getting the right nourishment. You can't have the false negatives with sugar. If we're going to have the kids, if we're working them out, we're getting that gymnastic stuff going on. We're working on the exercise programs. Well, they're going to start getting hungry where the sugar's not going to be effective. But the proper function for all the body activity is the physical, mental, is quality of the carbohydrates. That keeps the stress response, and you got to have the proteins to increase the alertness. And you got to have these kids being alert in school. So if we don't have that, we're not being effective as parents, as people that are in charge. Let's just put that, counties and such. We've got to have it. Yeah, okay, not every kid likes broccoli. Well, maybe they're allergic to it. And we need to find out it. But we have to have something that's standard. Well, if we have to have something that's for a diabetic kid, well, we need to work it out. We need to find a way to be able to create these things that the kids and these students can have what is needed nutritionally to take care of them for their health. And so when they get to be older, they're not going to have a lot of medical conditions. You got to think early.
There was a report last year, I believe it was, of a mother that sent her kid to school with I believe it was a turkey sandwich. She had made fresh turkey and put together a really healthy sandwich. The kid got to school, the cafeteria staff took the sandwich away and gave the kids these chicken McNuggets, these deep-fried bread-coated little pieces of artificial chicken compared to the mother's healthy sandwich. Would you be allowing kids to take their own meals to school if they have, say, for example, they are diabetic or allergic to peanuts or whatever, allowing the parents to decide what the child can eat in school?
I'd allow it just across the board, not even about a medical condition. That's what we did when I was growing up. Matter of fact, my dad was a preacher. He wasn't making a lot of money at that point in time. My mom was a nurse. So we had gardens. We were growing stuff and everything else. And my mom was making my lunches because she wanted to make sure I was eating the right stuff and what I knew that she knew I liked, but also it was healthy. So, no, I would be all about that. I would be all about moms, dads wanting to be able to send their kids with their lunches. Absolutely. And I had an apple in mine every day. Trust me, and I didn't like apples, but I ate it anyway because I knew if I came home with it still in my lunchbox, I was going to be in trouble.
Oh, man. Couldn't give that apple
you're
away.
In that mood with me, too. I know you're the other one on that one, buddy.
Nathan, it came out a couple of weeks ago that some servicemen were overpaid on a bonus. And the Defense Department was trying to get them to repay that with interest. What are your thoughts on that if something like that happened to our National Guardsmen?
Happens to us, they're not paying back nothing. They served, they did their duty, and we'll fight against the Department of Defense. And I will hold our congressmen and our senators to ensure that they will fight for our people. Not for some other group, but they will fight for our vets and for those who have served. So no, if they say we're going to take it out anyway, well, we will find a way to be able to get them what they had, whatever it takes, because we'll be in the black. We're already in the black. We can afford to take care of our own if we have to.
Well, that was disgraceful, what they were doing out in California. And, here these people didn't even know that they shouldn't have received that money. And now you come back at them 10 years later and say you want it with interest. That was just completely disgraceful. Whoever thought that up, unbelievable.
Well, let's go ahead and take the VA checks away from all these ones that have been pushing files through saying this person's okay, this one's that, blah, 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 and they get bonuses. And they were actually caught in the act, and they still got bonuses, and they still get them, and they're not fired from their job. Let's talk about them. Let's keep going after them instead of let's going after our people that have actually served at a foreign station or even back here in support of those that are overseas.
Now,
what about the $6 billion that got lost at the State Department? Are they going to pay that back?
Come back on that? I didn't catch it.
$6 billion that was lost in the State Department going a certain person's to the.
Yeah,
name it.
You know what?
Hillary.
All I got to do is I just hope that Donald Trump says, I want for my Attorney General Rudy Giuliani. I know Rudy. I love the guy. And I want him to say, take the cuffs off, go after him, investigate, prosecute to the fullest of the law.
Well, talking
and
about
retrieve the Capitol.
Talking about prosecute to the fullest
of
the law.
How do you lose $6 billion?
Yeah, that's asinine. That's just, oh my gosh, it's just absolutely nuts. Yeah, when I heard that too, I was just like, I guarantee there's more than that. Because let's look at the uranium sales at the State Department that Hillary did for Clinton, Bill, her husband, to get that through. We know that high U.S. grade uranium sold to Russia. I mean, seriously, folks, how much money did they get in the Clinton Foundation for that? And I just got to pray, like everybody else. We got to pray, intercede for Trump to get in, And we need him, and we need Attorney General that's going to be powerful and strong, because it is time to bring our nation back to where we need to be, but it gets back to where it starts. And it starts with each and every one of the states having to stand up and be strong and know our constitutional amendment rights as a state and our constitutional rights as a state for our own people. That's the ticket. And then we start pushing, and that's what we can do. But we know that when Donald Trump gets into play, he's got a great team around him. And that's what I'm building around me. I've already got a great team of folks around me. And you will see that in Florida, I will hire the most veterans, men and women, that can effectively do the jobs and put them in the positions of leadership so we can be able to move the state into where we need to be moving it to. And that's in a greater way than it is now. To be able to take down and have the security of the state, at the same time creating those jobs, getting the economic development, getting our schools online, building our infrastructure in the Florida, which we can do. All this other nonsense we hear about a lagoon. It's got all this algae. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that if you have stagnant water and you don't have a fountain in it and you don't have the air circulating, you're going to have algae and liver and pads laying everywhere. They're going to fly everywhere. You can't just flush it out and blame it on sugar. When you dug through the west side of the state, which cut in to be able to move the Kissimmee River, well, you cut through the daggone phosphorus mines. Why do you think the phosphorus levels are so high? It's not about cattle and ranching and fertilizer. Let's look at the real issues. So if you're moving these things forward, we got to do these things. We're going to do them, but I know we'll get the right people. We're going to have the right people, and that's exactly what Donald's going to do for this country. And I got to just plug him because he's the leader we need right now for a time as this. There is no other.
Well, I got to tell you that here in South Carolina, we've got a statewide Tea Party coalition, and the leader of that had issued a press release just yesterday. I'm trying to look for it. Oh, here it is. Endorsing Donald Trump. And along with it, we have the Myrtle Beach Tea Party, the Lawrence Tea Party, the Greenville Tea Party, the Hilton Head Tea Party, and my Tea Party, the Beaufort Tea Party, that also joined in on that endorsement. And in my statement on the press release, I had written that when our founders created this wonderful experiment called the United States of America, they warned future generations against the weakening of this republic. Slowly we have allowed it to be chipped away, where we are today seeing gaping holes emerging in our foundation. We need a strong leader who sees the dangers we face and will act to make America great again. We need a president who will bring back pride and strengthen America and Americans. We need a commander-in-chief who will defend us from our enemies, foreign and domestic. We need a leader who will put America first and foremost, not a globalist. We need Donald Trump. Signed by me. That's what we need.
Outstanding. Yeah, and the other thing too, it's great. He knows how to work with people, and he'll be able to work with the state. Just like I, as the governor of Florida, I will be working with all the leadership of the counties, not just having the person go out there and do it. I'm going to be boots on the ground. We have an emergency situation. You're not going to see me on TV grabbing a case of water and popping. I'm going to be popping out whatever it takes. We're going to be out there, and everybody's going to be like, oh, my gosh, I'm going to be in 5.11s. I'm going to be in my military style, and I'm going to have my weapon on my side, and we're going to work.
Now
Period. In a statement.
We have another question from Vito in the chat room. He wants to know if you have any key endorsements in Florida in the upcoming election, the Republican Party or any county GOP parties.
I have not yet. I just got started. I just filed back in May. So I've been I actually was the chair for Osceola County for Donald Trump during the primaries because they had no one. And then once I filed, I had to drop from that. But I've just gotten started. I'm looking forward to getting endorsements from Tea Parties and others. I'd be more than happy to have people give us a call, and I'll be more glad to talk to them. But I'd love to get their endorsement.
Yeah, now, your election is going to be not this upcoming election. It will be in 2018, where Scott has term limited out. And on your website, which is, again, your name, Nathan D. Wilson, FL for Florida.com, NathanDWilsonFL.com. You do have endorsements from individuals listed, and some of them are pretty extensive and really nice. So we've got a couple of years to work on your
I thought you were
campaign.
more like talking about parties. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of endorsements for my works, and one of them's a dear friend of mine, former Green Beret attorney as well, works for the Heritage Foundation, and that's Colonel Stephen Bushy. He and I worked on together on things SecDef's office before we went into Iraq the first time around in 2003 here. And then I got one from Colin Powell because of what I have done on countering the human trafficking, and Frank Carlucci, which has been one of my mentors since 2003. I've been very blessed, and quite a few others. And I just do what I'm supposed to do. You go to work and you try to help people, and that's where I think everything really lays.
Yeah, you're doing an excellent job, and I wish we had more. If we can clone you for all 50 states, I'd love to have that happen. That would be one way of doing it.
Well, you get Bennett and me to just start training people. We'll start training them.
Now, I want to take you back over to Obamacare because you said you want to get rid of it in your state, and you have something called the Enhanced Program. What is the Enhanced Program?
Wow, that's a big one. Advisors and I sit down. It took us a week to start coming up. And by the way, just to kind of give you an idea of my advisor, he served in the United States Air Force as well. He was just one step away from getting his 1 star when he left the service. But we had sat down and we saw what has been going on, and he's been really on tune with it. And as we started looking at what we needed to do for the patients and the doctors, with all the losses of control providing through the healthcare on the decision making, we've got to further that out. We've got to really look at what the issues are with the patients and the doctors, so it's not less effective, but we're effective. So they talk about, let's go video streaming, and then you have the patient just do it. Look, I worked in hematology oncology for 7.5 years. It doesn't work that way. It's not going to work that way. You can't just say, you got to come. You don't have to come in. I'll just give you these drugs. Well, are we going to keep doing drugs and just passing drugs on to something, or are we going to find out what the real issue is? We got to get workups done. So you look at the aspect of legislation. We got to implement the enhancement of the following free market principles. We've got to add that. We've got to have that in place. So it restores our economy so that the freedom for all Floridians will be able to have the right insurance policies, first of all, soundly, that's affordable, also on the health care. So we can make it more, or I want to have more insurance companies come here. You know why? I want them to compete against each other to get the right product for our people, but I want them at lower cost. So if we can start getting people to go against each other in these corporations, now the price is going to go down. We all know that. So we look at that part, and then we look for citizens, that are less fortunate. We will ensure the existing health care plans are designated to provide the access to their quality for health care. They have to have it. We can have an ambulatory care unit in a hospital. They did that when I worked at ER back in the days in Jersey. You had ambulatory care, and you also had the emergency care. Well, you triage when you first came in, so you're being directed where you're going to go. So if it's a flu or a cold or a sniffle from your little kid, or you might have a urinary tract, you're going to ambulatory care. If you got serious injuries, or you got a full MI, or you're in a car accident or something of that nature, we'll take you straight in to the ER. So there's ways to be able to do this. We just need the providers to be able to see how they can actually get back to this and be able to get paid what they need to get paid. So then we also look at the health care for illegals. It's not just about illegals. I mean, even it's about $11 billion annually that we're looking at that goes out. But if we look at the unbridled grants and the visas in the country that we have, they're also revealing the health care costs or pressures for each and every state and local government. I mean, you got to look at the local government aspect, too, for every county, every city. So we do it looking for matching funds that with the federal health programs that are out there. There are those available through HHS. But a lot of people don't know how to use those or how to get those. And then also out of U.S. Ag, by the way, if it's in a rural setting. So there is ways to do those things. You also look at the Children's Health Care program. This helps increase the capital exposure for all businesses. And it brings new jobs also that pay well for the health care benefits. We got to do that without exercising government dependency. We got to do that as well. We got to not just rely on the government. And we don't need to be relied on. We got to start taking our own action and putting our own plan together through our leadership, jointly and supporting the floor of the Senate and the House. And when we start working together as a team, we can come up with a great, great program. And I totally believe that. And there's just so much more that can go with that. But that's really where we are right now, what we can actually do when I become governor.
Well, Nathan, from your lips to God's ears, we're definitely going to have you back on the show. Matter of fact, you also have an invite from Kel Fritzy to go onto her radio show. So I'm going to ask Curtis later on after we get off to give Kel a call so she can get your information and contact you about it. Our next guest is here with us. I want to remind everyone to go to your website, NathanDWilsonFL.com, and I'm wishing you a lot of good luck. I mean, we've got plenty of time to help support your campaign, and I want to see you at the top of the polls and be the next governor of Florida.
Well, I appreciate that. I really appreciate you having me on your show today, and thanks, Bennett, as well. And, people can also donate on our page. Really need to get donations in. That's going to be the biggest capital. Just a real quick one, though. They say that Scott needed $74 million to run. Another one did, $64 million. I did the budget, by the way. Put that $36 million to win the candidacy. It's not going to be a problem. People just have to spend too much money and waste it. I'm not. I'm all about cutting costs, getting things done. But I can use everybody's support and endorsements. That would be great. And you can, like you said, go to NathanDWilsonFL.com. And look forward to hearing from all of you. And I look forward to being back on your show again.
It is my pleasure. Thank you, and good luck.
I definitely will be in touch.
Thank you. God bless.
All right. Check it out, Nathan D. Wilson, FL. And we will bring our next guest in on the line. He's a commissioner out of Putnam County, and we want to welcome Larry Harvey. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. Our pleasure. I have been harping on it ever since I started this radio show that local politics is just as important as state and federal politics. Matter of fact, in many cases, I think local politics is far more important than state or federal. Do you agree with me on that?
I do. I think, when you look at local politics, you look at the first line of defense, if you will. We're right here where the people live. We live in that community, and we know that where that dead possum lays on the side of the road, and it's our job to be able to facilitate working with government and our citizens, and we see that more than anybody does, and we should be more in tune with that than any other government removed from local level.
It's funny because my county council sees me sitting there on one of their meetings and they're going, "Oh, good Lord, what are we in for now?" But
a lot of them feel that way. They kind of make fun of those people that the few that constantly show up, and I hear it throughout the state. But I enjoy that conversation, and I realize that I work for 72,000 people, and I think the day that I forget that is the day I need to turn my keys in and walk out of the building.
Yeah, that is very, very true because we've been fighting a local sales tax option. It's going to be a referendum. Actually, there's 3 referendums coming on our ballot this November 8th. And at the beginning of this fight, we were holding listening tours, an organization formed to fight the sales tax, and the 2 people that are running it are absolutely fantastic. So they had this listening tours around the entire county. And one of the school board members showed up. And he was one of the ones that was supporting the sales tax. Now I don't think he is at this point. But he said, you people have to show up at our meetings and remind us we work for you, not the other way around. Yeah. And unfortunately, we do get a lot of people in county and state government who feel that the public are the peons and they're the great ones.
Yeah, they've attained all knowledge and they know more than anybody, but in fact, it's the opposite way around. And we should be out there looking and researching and doing the extra time to to make sure that the needs of the people are met. And let me say this, we disguise taxes by calling them all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, it's a fiscal responsibility that needs to take place. Spending money just to spend money on trivial things is trivial. We have one going on in the county right now that I'm trying to fight, and it's not an economic driver for our county. It won't. When you build government complexes, that does not increase your economic value of your county. Now, if you want to build something that brings people in, say for a fairgrounds or for ball fields, that can bring in teams and bring in economic drivers, that's one thing. But building administration buildings is ridiculous. And our friends, let me assure you, the friends in Tallahassee that we have, they know what we're spending our money on. And then when we go up there with our hat in our hand looking for more and how can we partner with you, they smile and say, sure, we'll help you. But at the end of the day, they're not going to write a check. And that's the bottom line, And I think it's going to come back to one day where we need to take care of ourselves, just kind of like we all do with our people. We want to help. We want to help those who want to help themselves.
Well, that is what our local government has to realize, because we've got, with this local sales tax, the school sales tax that they're trying to push forward, in the bill is 2 air-conditioned hot dog stands for 2 high schools out of Hilton Head. And
how do we live without it, right?
Yeah, air-conditioned hot dog stands for high schools. And I had my local Tea Party meeting, and a kid came walking in, and he was basically trying to snoop. But by the time we got done with the meetings and brought out the hot dog stands, I turned and looked at him and I says, what do 2 hot dog stands out in Hilton Head have to do with the elementary kids in the classroom over in St. Helena? How is it helping them in the classroom? And in the sales tax bill, not a single penny goes into the classroom. It only goes for brick and mortar projects. And the kid looked at me, he goes, I didn't know that, because the Black Chamber of Commerce was going to support the sales tax. Now he knows what is truly in it. But that's the whole thing. It's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, and let's kind of paint that picture. Let's go further with it and say now you need some extra help. And when you go to your state legislators and they go, well, why did you build air-conditioned hot dog stands with the money? That's kind of frivolous, don't you think? Your whole demeanor is shot right there, your whole persona. So it's ridiculous. It doesn't help people. And I think we're seeing that more on a local level, that these things that we create are not helping the people. And again, I go back to my analogy. We know where that log is laying in the road, or that dead possum. Those are the things that need to help the people. And we seem to kind of overlook that sometimes, by building emphasis to the government gods, if you will.
Larry,
God's
what
true.
has been some of your challenges? What has been some of your challenges with you being the sole Republican on the county commission, facing 4 other Democrats?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, Mr. Bennett. Being the lone Republican when the governor did appoint me, and Governor Scott did, and then I got elected, he asked me then, do you mind swimming upstream? Well, I've kind of always liked to swim upstream and kind of ruffle the feathers a little, but I had no earthly idea that it would be so difficult. And I think the biggest challenge that I run into is to bring the other members to the table that understand that this tax and spend is never going to work. It's not. Historically, it hasn't worked, and constantly looking for more and more fees, and we don't want to call them taxes because they don't like that terminology. But I think that's my biggest struggle, is to get them to go, wait a minute, let's stop here and look at cutting taxes and cutting fees and cutting spending. Curtis, for example, let's just kind of use our current budget at $100 million. And the state of Florida says we can only budget for 95%. Well, that's a 5% gap there. That's $5 million. We took $4.4 million out of reserves to balance the budget. So if we could collect 100% of our revenue, that wipes out the reserve problem right there. But we won't, and we got to find some creative ways to do that. And I'm working with our tax collector right now to handle that. But let's just go a little step further. Let's say that, Mr. Bennett, you give me $1 to go to the store today, and you send me down for a loaf of bread. And you say, Larry, look, I need you to bring me back a nickel. That's the bottom line. You got to bring back a nickel. So I don't get to buy the expensive bread. I get to buy white bread or wheat bread, but I don't get to buy the real expensive bread. But I bring you back that nickel. Well, there's another $5 million. So we collect our revenue that's due us, and we lower our expenses. Now we just did $10 million a year. That's significant money, and that starts putting us back in the black instead of watching our reserves dwindle to nothing. So when I say that, I think that's my biggest challenge with getting my fellow commissioners to not be tax and spend Democrats, but to start looking at we're all in the same boat, and whether I get wet first or you get wet first, we're all going to get wet one day. Sorry, I got kind of winded there. I'm very passionate about that.
Well, another problem we have in our county is over-regulation of small businesses and over-taxation of small businesses. Because here, I don't know if you guys have that in Florida, but here we have, if a business has an asset, whether it's a chair, a desk, a computer, the computer program, shelving, lighting, any and all of those assets are taxed every year. You're not taxed once with the sales tax every year, but you get hit with that tax year after year after year. Yes, those assets do depreciate, and that tax goes down until you buy a new item to replace it, and then you get more tax. My husband and I actually closed our business because the tax bill they gave us one year was more than the total value of all of our assets combined. So we got a tax bill that was like
exactly.
So why would we want to be in business? At that point, we said, the county is going nuts. We're closing our doors. We're retiring. Do you have that in your county?
Well, we do. And we have in our state tangible personal property tax, and we do tax those items that you mentioned. And it's ridiculous. It's flat out ridiculous. I can lose money at home. I was in business for 28 years, and I have to be able to make money to stay in business to employ the 15 people that work for me. That was common sense. But taxing me out of it, all that did was make me lay off a person or not buy the equipment that I needed to buy and try to do without because I couldn't afford the tax base. We've got to change that. We've got to change that whole mindset right there, because our job should be about, we're a consumer-driven economy. So we need to be about buying things and putting people back to work. And whatever hampers that, we need to get that out of the way. And, these tangible taxes are just ridiculous. They're ridiculous. And because, like you just said, what you did is close your business down and went to the house and said, I can lose money at home. There's no sense in trying to keep the doors open. And that's not what we need to be about. We should be encouraging entrepreneurship. Now that I'm a little bit older in life, and I'm not 23 years old anymore and full of, I didn't have to sleep for 3 days in a row. Now, I don't know if I could start my business in the way the world is today, the way our economy is. I don't think I have the energy. I don't think I have the willpower. And that's sad, because I hope there's a 23-year-old that's coming behind me somewhere down there that goes, I want what Mr. Harvey had. I want to be able to do what he did. Because that's what all of us do. We look at somebody and go, I want to be where they're at. I want to do what they're doing. And that's how I started my business. I knew that I could work harder, I could work smarter, and if I could, and I bought the gentleman out, and that lump in the throat that we all have as business owners, that's a good thing, because it makes you get out there and work right and represent your clients well. So more money in your pocket means better economy for all of us.
Yeah, because
I agree.
It's proven that when you do lower the tax that you're being charged, more money actually goes back into government in revenue. So people say,
Right.
well, if you're not paying that tax anymore, how is the revenue going back into the government? It's because now people are saying, I've got more disposable income in my pocket. I can spend more money. And that sales tax then also helps the county, state, and federal government.
Exactly. A dollar back in the economy can sometimes go 5 times or 6 times. So $1 can make $6 in our economy when we spend it right. We go out for dinner, we buy certain products, we get a car, we get gas. All those things help our economy. And that $1 could make $5. And when you put $5 back out and then start timesing that, you think about the great Ponzi scheme, if you will. It's really not, but that money's moving so fast and furious. We should be encouraging all that to take place. When in fact we're not. We're encouraging people not to go out and spend in the economy, and it needs to be the other way around. It really does.
Yeah. Now,
I had a gentleman one time. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, one thing that drives me crazy about our county government, every once in a while we have to show up and tell them that the job of government is not business. What they wanted to do, what they always try to do, is go out and buy a commerce park and then say, we're going to get businesses to come into the commerce park. No, you let the open market do that. Right. We don't need that piece of property off of the tax rolls. If you leave it on the tax rolls and businesses do go into that commerce park, that is more revenue to the county. But once you buy that property, you're not taxing it. So where's your revenue going to come from?
Yeah. Well, you make a good point there. We have a building in our business park that we got a long time ago, and we spent, I think it was like $2 million of our taxpayer money for this building. And the other day we had an offer on it for like $1 million. I would have given the building away because it's going to take $5 million to retrofit it to be used. It's a dirt floor building. It really currently is dirt floor. And it's silly that we spent that kind of money hoping that if we build it, they'll come. They're going to come because of our economy being the right economy. It's not about building. It has nothing to do with that. And there's no incentives we can give. We can't just give this building away. But the best offer we could get that we pretty much said, yeah, please take it, is $1.2 million on a who does that? Who in their right mind in business builds a $2 million building to sell it for $1.2 million? You don't do that stuff. So the best thing to do is let the private investors handle that. I often think about it, and I won't mention the name, but I'll kind of give a little, you'll figure out what I'm talking about, is this gentleman down in Central Florida decided to build a theme park around a mouse. Now, would I have invested in that theme park drain the swampland of Central Florida and create that? I said, dude, you've been out in the sun too long. But it was his idea, and it was capitalism at its best. And he convinced investors to go with that. And you know what? I'm wrong, and he's right. And our economy is better off because of it. So the best thing I can do as a government official is to get out of the way and let your silly idea, that I might think never will fly and create a better economy and not try to compete with you, period.
Well,
I'm sorry, I just get so...
Well, I will tell you that we were highly successful in fighting our council in not buying that commerce park. They're trying it with another one somewhere else in the county, and we'll fight them and stop them again. But because we stopped it, the city turned around and said, hey, you know what, we can annex that portion of the county and bring it into the city, and the city will buy the building. Well, the city bought the building again for $2 million. Why that $2 million figure always comes up. And they have had it sitting empty for the last, I think now it's going on 7 years. I think there's one business in the entire Commerce Park. So, it doesn't work. And time again, government, we see it doesn't work, and yet they insist on doing it anyway. It's like hitting your head against a brick wall. But that's why it's important for people like me to get involved with people like you.
Exactly. And what I think we need to do, in my opinion, is to get rid of the fees, make our land available for businesses to come, and pretty much say, how do I get out of your way so you can do what you want to do? I mean, that's what we should be doing. It's not that we should be regulating our businesses to death. We should be going, tell me how to get out of the way, and then I'll get out of the way. And that's the bottom line. You know, I mean, think about all these people who came to Florida and other areas and started businesses and did real well. They didn't do it because of the government. They did it in spite of the government. And my opinion, the less we do on the government side, the better off we are. And having these big edifices that are sitting out there with taxpayer money, with producing no return on investment, is really, in my opinion, it should be illegal. And we shouldn't be able to do that. But we think we're doing the right thing because we hear from economic advisors that we need to have places that are shovel-ready and we need to have all this. Well, bull. It ain't working that way. We don't need 8-inch sidewalks, 6 feet wide for a bicycle. Gosh, I don't know how I grew up without that, you know? It's amazing. So
oh, man.
We had that. We had that happen in our county. The shovel-ready project was an 8-inch sidewalk that was 6 foot wide, but only bicycles can get on it. My carport ain't that big. But that's a shovel-ready project, yes, sir.
But it is important for people to get involved. I say it time and time again. You got to know what is out there, who is out there, from the dog catcher all the way on up. Know who you're electing, right? Because these issues directly affect your pocketbook. You know, because if you're going to initiate a sales tax, you know, what is it for? Is it for something that is worthwhile or not? Is it filled with pork, or is it filled with worthwhile projects like infrastructure, such as roads, bridges, things like that? Or are you letting them take your tax money and build an art center in an area where the previous art center failed? So why are you going to build a new one next to the old one when the old one still doesn't work? This is why,
because we think we can build it bigger and better and they'll come, and that's not the truth. I mean, in business, you would go, I'm not going to build there because the last one didn't work there. I'm going to go to a different side of town and do this. You're exactly right. And you're exactly right. If people do not show up to their local government, and I mean that wholeheartedly, and go up the line from county to state to federal, they need to know these people back home. I just got off the phone with our congressman. I know him personally. He knows how I feel about things, you know, and he calls me for advice. Imagine that's just one person. Let's just talk about if there was 30 people that he could trust to give him their point of view. Don't you think we'd have a better country all the way around? More diverse, more, you know, I don't have a problem listening to any side of the conversation as long as we can do it intelligently and not, but I don't mind passion either. I'm fine with all that. So I learn from people. But my biggest thing I learned is to get out of the way and let's see how we can move government. Yeah, cut all this red tape and let them come in and do what they do best, and that's create money. Money. And when they create money and they put people back to work, everybody feels better when you have a little jingle in your pocket. I always say everything's funny when you're making money, you know, and it is. It truly, you feel, you know, at the end, as a small business owner like you were, you know, when you couldn't get paid on Friday, wasn't so funny, was it? And no. Monday's hard to come by when you go, yeah, you can write a check, but you go, I can't cash it. So
what am I going to do next?
Cashing those, yeah, when you start cashing those checks, you start spending money, and life is good. And I think you're right. You know, when we hear from those 8 people every second and fourth Tuesday, you know, those are the 8 people that I believe have their finger on the pulse of the county, and I want to hear from them. I go on the radio station every Tuesday morning before these meetings and beg people to come down. But in reality, at the last budget meeting, there was one person in the audience.
Oh, jeez.
And that's, we got to do better. We got to do better. Because when it implodes and it's bankrupt, too late to fix it then. you know.
Well, that is the truth. And, with my own congressman, if I see something going on, I will text him, I will call him, I will reach out to his office. When he needs feedback, he has someone from his office call me, or he'll call me directly. As a matter of fact, right after this last Hurricane Matthew, he was on the phone with me just making sure my husband and I were okay if we needed anything. When you do reach out to your elected officials and you do it over and over and over again, when you pick up that phone with something that's important, they are going to listen and they're going to respect you. As if it's county council, city council, if it's a school board, if you're there in the audience watching them, they act completely different than when there's no one in the audience. So that is why it's so important.
Oh, I've seen that, yeah. Yeah, because what happens if no one's there, you start seeing these emergency items pop up that are non-agenda. And, hey, do you think we can maybe raise our millage tax up a little bit more to cover this problem? No, it wasn't on the agenda. No one's in the audience. What is that going to look like? No, we're not going to have that discussion. And I remember doing that. Last time that happened, I was like, we're not going to do that. So now I get the dirty looks from all the staff and, the people that want to make this happen, but I'm okay with that. Again, I don't mind swimming upstream. Got the scars to prove it on the rocks, if you will. One day I might see that red laser on me when I'm driving home, but oh well. The way it is.
Larry, it has been a pleasure having you on.
Hopefully this coming November, well, thank you. I enjoyed it. I really have. So, and I'd love to come back. So anytime you need me, give me a holler, and I'll be back on.
We definitely will, and hopefully come November 9th, we will wake up without a hangover, but happy. So
exactly.
May the birds of happiness get Donald Trump in office.
I think we're all looking for that day. I mean, we really are. And, I tell you one thing, I don't think we can afford another 4 years or 8 years of what we've been getting. And you look around and this more decisiveness, more divisiveness, it's just crazy what's taking place in our beautiful country. And I fear for my kids and my grandkids that they won't have those same opportunities I had. Because once the government starts taking care of you, we're doomed at that point. Again, I don't want, I tell you a story, and I know we're going to close here in a minute, but I married a lady that had 2 children when I was 23. And then we had another child a year later, and so 3 women, 3 girls, and my wife. And I remember the school calling me one day because I worked at the grocery store, and they said, your income, you probably qualify for free lunch for the kids to have it. We'd like to sign you up. And I said, it's not your responsibility to raise them. It's mine, and I'm not going to do that. And I scrubbed homes on the weekend. I mowed yards. I did. My wife made lollipops. The girls sold them at school. We did what we had to do to feed our family. And I think that's what we got to get back to. I don't want you feeding me because I might not like the peanut butter and jelly that you're giving me. I want to buy my own peanut butter and jelly, and buy my own bread. I don't want to be fed. I want you to get out of my way and let me be the entrepreneur that God has given me the ability to be. So, and thank you for having me, Mr. Bennett. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And we will have you back on.
And please.
Go ahead.
I look forward to it on November. After November, I look forward to it.
Like I said before.
Yeah, I think we all look forward to it after November.
All right. Well, good. Well, thank you so much. Y'all have a blessed day.
You too.
All
thank you very much. And your Facebook link is in the show description, so people can click on it and send you a message if they like. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is all for today. The show is until Tuesday. We'll be back Tuesday with George Farrell from Black Pack. He's joining us again. And Elbert Guillory, who I thought was going to be on this past Tuesday, will be on the 1st. I just marked it down on the wrong date. That was my fault. But Elbert Guillory will be with us on the 1st also. So we got 2 great guests coming back on Tuesday. So I want everyone out there to be safe, healthy, and happy over the weekend. And be back here on Tuesday, same bat time, same bat station. So, critters, I say good night and God bless.
Yep, and vote if there's early
If you like your health care plan.
Oh, sorry about that, Curtis.
You'll be able to keep your health care plan. Health care plan. Health care
Tell you how it's gonna work, kid. You're working hard like your parents both did. Everything you earn by breaking your back, we're gonna redistribute when we make our pay tax. Hey!
Curtis, sorry about that. I didn't mean to step on you when I started the music.
Oh, that's all right. It's just unpredictable radio. But two good guests. So I think everybody liked him today, especially Mr. Wilson.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, you have a very good weekend, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay, Tuesday.
Okay, take care.
All right.
Here in the land of the not so free, party not refreshing struggles for our own cause. We got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws. Political courageous will replace the bill of rights. Support religious freedom, let you pray to Jesus Christ. The presence in our pockets, but there's no longer free. You cannot make a move, now that's the end of dignity. Don't expect equality, respect for fair play. The IRS will target those who vote the wrong way. Welcome to the day.